cordless computer.
All right, there we go. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Master and Apprentice Show. My name is Jacob, as always, and I'm joined by.
Well, I'm Jacob's uncle Gary, so how are you, Jacob?
Yeah, so today we're a little late on this, but we're going to talk a little bit about Andor season two, kind of our general thoughts on that, how we think it followed up by Andor season one, stuff like that, kind of give our takes there, as well as following then into a little bit about Tales of the Underworld, which we are also a little late on, but we'll talk about those a little bit as well, and then kind of some anticipations towards future projects in Star Wars, stuff like that. So that's kind of the general layout, but yeah, so I figure first we'll probably give our overarching opinions on what we thought of Andor season two, and then we'll probably delve into some specifics here and there. But if you want to give your opinion on what you thought of Andor season two, that'd be great.
Oh, absolutely. I think that this was just one of the finest Star Wars TV shows, if not one of the finest TV shows I've had the pleasure of watching, actually. Like you mentioned this quite a bit on our show. I am big time into the political story arcs of Star Wars and getting into that deep dive of what goes on,
Hmm.
behind the scenes in the Senate with the machinations of Emperor Palpatine, and we got a ton of that in this
Oh
show,
yeah,
that's for
yeah,
sure. And
exactly.
and with Mon Mothma, who was one of my favorite characters as well, and seeing her escape out of there after denouncing the Gorman massacre and denouncing Palpatine by name in her
Oh yeah,
Senate speech, not afraid to stand up and say, "Hey, this is the monster that's screaming the loudest." And I really enjoyed the fact that, and I'm going to get political here now, a lot of the stuff that uh, occurred in this season is in some ways occurring in real life right now
yeah. No,
in
I think so
our
too.
country,
Yeah,
unfortunately. Yep.
yep.
And it's scary in a way, but it's also a reminder that, hey, this goes on in real life, and here's how it can be dealt with. So
Oh, for sure.
that's all I'm gonna say about that. But
Yeah, I think it's really hard to talk about this show and not make those connections. I mean, it's really obvious that Tony Gilroy was being very intentional about a lot of the choices he made,
yeah,
with the political imagery. I mean, we saw a ton of stuff with that Gorman arc. That was a propaganda machine
yeah,
ready to go, blew over the top, and we saw a legitimate massacre take place there, which was, I mean, that was heart-wrenching. I saw that on the TV the first time. I was in my living room and stuff like that, and I was like, I can't believe what I just saw. Like, and not that it was bad storytelling. It was amazing storytelling, but it really hit me in all my emotional places. It was a crazy scene, and they threw so much at you. They made sure that you were fully engrossed in what was happening. Um, and yeah, very reminiscent of historical events we've seen in not so far history, pretty recent stuff. Um, so yeah, hard not to link them both. They're very hand in hand, I think.
that episode where the Gorman massacre actually took place was, for me, the toughest thing I've watched in Star Wars,
Hmm.
superseding, even the Order 66 scenes.
Oh, for sure.
That was a tough watch, and the speech that, I think her name was Drina, the speech that she gave,
Hmm. I think that's
the
right.
transmission, we're being massacred. Someone please help us. That was
Hmm. It was so raw. I
it's an
mean, there
odd
was
it's an odd numbered show, so I'm going to get emotional. Or I'm sorry, it's an even numbered show.
yeah,
So I
yeah.
get emotional in the even numbered shows. I've noticed.
Uh, that's how it is, though.
That was a tough listening to
Oh
her
yeah,
send out that transmission. It
yep.
really was. So, yeah, I had a after that episode was done, I had to take
Oh
a
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
That was a tough one
let
for
it
sure.
sink in. Yeah,
A lot of this season was centered around that sequence of events. From even the first episode where Krennic held his somewhat comedic meeting, actually. Very walking in, I'm this, and that. Let's talk about the energy program, right? And then he goes through and shows the most his
energy,
energy program, right? And then
and
goes through and
ener
talks
our
talks
energy
about
independence. Yeah,
yeah, and then talks about Gorman in the most cartoony way possible by showing the most
Oh,
travel-centric flick ever. And was
yeah.
like, yeah, just, just to aid on this propaganda machine and and then introduce those two what did he refer to them as? Like the
Oh,
like the ambassadors of something, right? But
yeah. I
they
can't
were
remember.
Gorman
Yeah.
ambassadors, and they were talking about, how they've planted all this propaganda, going back to the political stuff, right? This is a very reminiscent kind of event, to like even Nazi propaganda that we saw in like World War II, very similar kind of activity. Um, and then for him to kind of laugh at them, saying that they went over the top, kind of, and then just laugh along with everything.
That's
Krennic is a very demanding, but very unserious in a lot of scenarios. And I think that makes his character very different from people like Tarkin, despite him wanting to be more like
right.
Tarkin in a lot of ways. But very interesting guy, for
Krennic in
sure.
a lot of ways is a clown.
He is a clown. He's stupid.
He's a clown. He really is.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
He
amazing that he
follows
got.
through. You can go
It's
ahead.
amazing that he got to where he got to
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
imperial hierarchy.
Oh, absolutely. He likes to hear what the emperor tells him, and I think he thinks he's really important based on what he's been told. Um, he's just a pawn in the game, though. I mean, he's moving forward agenda items that matter, but at the end of the day, he's expendable. And even in Rogue One, when he actually gets this project finished, and the emperor says, "Oh, I want it to go to Tarkin," instead, he gets shoved off of his own project because he keeps letting things loose, right? Loose lips sink ships kind of a thing. And
Yeah.
he was very bad about keeping that ship tight. So eventually he got the boot and then died to his own super weapon, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, I think the show did a good job framing him as a character, even throughout, outside of just that meeting that I mentioned. His presence was I'm glad that it started right off the start, like right on the first episode, and then they kept building it up to be, um, working towards the storm and stuff, and then eventually at the end, um, talking to Dedra and putting the finger on her head, type
I was just
thing.
going to mention.
That confrontation was very also kind of comedic, also improvised. Apparently, that was not in the script. He did that, and uh,
And her reaction was legitimate because she had no idea, and I can't remember the actress now that plays Dedra, that her name, but she didn't know that Ben
yeah.
Mendelsohn was going to do that.
Mhm.
He
Oh
did
yeah.
that. He stuck his finger down on her head, and her reaction was legitimate because she was like,
Mhm.
"Oh, I didn't know he was going to do that."
Yeah. I think it was very cool though. I
It
mean, actors being
was.
able to do that kind of a stuff on the whim, not necessarily in the script is what makes them so good, right? And that's why I think Krennic as a character is played so well. Because there's a lot of those moments, I think. Um, but yeah, no, I thought that scene was very, very good. And Krennic as a character is really, really nice.
He's awesome.
Um, Kind of segueing, I guess, into Dedra then. I feel like that's a pretty good segue.
Sure, let's talk about
Uh,
Dedra.
very, I mean, so she was also present at that meeting, and Krennic had a very interesting take, right? That she's the one that has the best opinion in this room, despite her being arguably one of the younger people in that room. She earned her reputation pretty good in the Empire with the first season of Andor and what she was able to do on Ferrix. Um, I think he definitely saw that and thought of her presence to be very commanding. And she did a very good job of establishing a lot of the Gorman stuff. It just so happens that there were a lot of forces coming into play there, and the message that they were trying to show worked a little too well and worked so well as to establish rebellion in a
Right.
more intergalactic or like a intragalactic, I guess, sense, right? So they got what they wanted, but they got it too well. And Dedra, I mean, she became an assassination target eventually, when Andor actually went to Gorman. So that was pretty curious too.
Yep. Yeah,
But
absolutely, absolutely. So we'll kind of semi segue from her, and we'll talk about her relationship with Cyril, which we saw
yeah, that
coming.
was what, like first episode or something where we saw
Right. Well,
that.
we saw that coming at the end of season one because when the uprising happens on Ferrix, he saves her, and who ended up on top? Was he on top of her, or was she on top of him?
Might have been.
I
It might have
can't
been.
remember.
Actually, I think it was her. I thought it was her.
I think she was on top, and it was like,
Yeah.
okay, those two are gonna get together, right?
Yep.
Is
Yep. And
that
he was shocked, which
is
is
that
kind of
the
strange because
is
he
that
was a
the
little bit of a creep. But
I was gonna say, is that the ickiest couple ever?
yeah, no, it's pretty gross. Right. So when we got that time skip of 1 year, I am so glad that that happened then because we got to
Yeah.
skip a whole year's worth of awkward Dedra Cyril
Oh,
relationship
oh,
building,
can
right?
you
I
imagine?
would not have wanted to see that. I'm not
Oh
gonna lie.
God.
Like, as much as I'm all for the details and being able to see things progress as they do, that is one thing I don't want to see any more than I got. I think I got plenty, actually.
It
Uh,
was it was puke inducing as it was.
yeah,
We
exactly. So
need
I
to get
think I
into
think I
that.
got plenty of that.
Yeah.
Um, and
Turn
then
off the
when
lights.
yeah,
That
exactly. I was like,
scene. Yeah.
this is some crazy stuff, right? I think I'm all set. And then when Edie came over, not much longer after that, right? Cyril's mother, that
God,
was
that woman.
also one of the funniest interactions ever. Because even someone like Dedra, who commands quite a good presence, like we've already mentioned, in the Empire,
Yeah.
is nervous around Cyril's mother, of all people, right? So that
Oh
that
yeah.
whole that whole dinner party or like dinner with Cyril's mother was quite funny to me.
It
Um,
was.
but we also got to learn a little bit more about this. What was the Uncle Harlow, I
Harlow, Uncle
think.
Harlow. We never
Uncle
saw Uncle
Harlow.
Harlow, but he got talked to. He got
We heard a
some good
lot.
Uncle Harlow talk in this show.
Yeah, we got a lot of tea about Uncle Harlow.
Yeah.
Him being well, because Dedra knew all about him, right? When Edie
Oh,
was
she had a bottle
talking.
line.
Yeah, yeah. When Edie was talking all about how Uncle Harlow is, secured this family and whatnot, Dedra was like, "Yeah, but he's a criminal. Like he was actually a criminal, and you're talking
Right.
so high and mighty about this guy, but he's no more than a crook." So that was a very awkward interaction, but I think it put Edie in her place just a
Oh,
little bit.
she finally put her in her place. She finally said, "Look, if you want any contact with him, you're gonna have to back off." Is basically what she said.
Exactly.
Not the
Yeah.
exact words she used, but that was
Yeah.
tenet of the message
Good,
right there.
good, good plot summary, essentially, right? That's
Oh,
that's a good
definitely,
point.
definitely, yeah. And so
But
since we're talking about Dedra, we got to talk about how she ended up, right?
yeah, yeah.
That
So
whole thing went wrong, and
yeah. Well, she overstepped quite a bit when because
she
she
did.
her whole and this was established in season one. We should have saw that she was going to slip because
Yeah.
I think or not season one and like the episode like first or second episode of this season she was talking
Well, I think in season one, I
oh
would agree with your season one take on that too. I think
yeah, that's
we
probably
saw hints of
true.
that in season one with her also.
Yeah, because
Go
she
ahead.
was so obsessive about Axis, and when she lost it, essentially she lost it.
Yeah.
Um, Paragas was saying that this might be a temporary demotion in the sense that like you getting this Gorman stuff is taking you away from the work that you like more. And at the moment, it seems like a demotion, but it's not going to be, right? So she couldn't get her mind away from the stuff that she had been working on before, and she became a very big snoop into what
Yeah.
her former assistant was doing too, right? He got promoted to ISB officer in
Sure.
that way, right? And then she got super obsessed with his work on it. And then eventually, like last three episodes of this arc or of this whole season, got Luthen, but totally messed it up, right? He was able to
Oh
stab
yeah.
himself before she made the arrest on anything. So essentially, totally butchered the operation. Um, and as a result of that, was also clumsy about Death Star files and a bunch of other stuff on her computer. To the point where oh, what's his name? What's the spy in the ISB's name?
Oh, Lonnie
Lonnie.
Young. Lonnie Young or
Lonnie.
John. I
Yeah.
don't know if it's
Lonnie Young, I
Young or
think.
John, but yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and then yeah, where he was able to essentially leak Death Star like files off her computer. So she got really sloppy, really comfortable, and I think that's what really got her at the end. And then ended up on not Narkina 5, but a Narkina facility to make something, which we never
A
were told.
similar prison, a similar prison. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know because we weren't told what they're making on this facility. I have no idea,
We just
but
know she's in an imperial prison.
Hmm. Yeah,
She's doing
and it's
she's doing some hard labor.
probably not Death Star stuff at that point anymore because that's been built already. Um,
Yeah, they're
yeah,
done making
yeah,
components.
because Rogue One literally sequences directly into the end of this season.
We
So
see them in Rogue One. We see them installing the super laser.
exactly.
And
Yeah. So basically, that's already done. The only thing that they could be still making for the Death Star is if they were trying to make like replicates of the laser in case like
spare
a panel
parts.
was damaged or something, maybe spare parts. But the only other thing I could
Could
think
be.
of too, um, would be like Star Destroyer parts. So like some of the like the shield domes, stuff like that, or
Sure.
anything like that. But either way, I mean, she got put into a very hefty Imperial prison as a result of all of the hard work that she did to keep that war machine turning, right? So she got a pretty bad fate at the end of it all.
Well, we talked about this on our last episode too. Governments like that, they're not
Mm.
loyal to the people who are loyal to them.
No.
That's for sure.
Yep.
All you
Which
have
turns
to
right
do is
back to that Krennic
you
thing.
have to screw up one time, and they're
Hmm.
done, and they're done with you. They're done with you.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
Exactly. That's why Krennic lost the Death Star. That's why he eventually got
yeah.
killed by his own war machine. The exact same thing, just with a different person, right? And I think I had a feeling something was going to happen to her because we don't see her ever again. Um,
Right.
I didn't I wasn't sure if I was confident or not if she was going to end up dying, but this is a way worse fate for her than that. This is a
Absolutely.
lot more drawn out, and just like Narkina 5 never released their prisoners, I don't think she's going to get released either. Her sentence is probably going to keep getting re-rolled every time. So,
No,
as far as I'm
unless
concerned,
I
it's
would be interested. I wouldn't necessarily want to see a TV series about it, but maybe in a book or something, or a mention in a comic book or something. I wonder what
mhm.
happened to those facilities, after the Rebel Alliance finally defeated the Empire and
Yeah,
they
yeah.
started transitioning to the New Republic. I
Mhm.
wonder what happened with those Imperial facilities. I mean, she probably stayed in some kind of a prison. They probably transferred her to something not as bad as that,
Mhm.
but I'd be interested to
Yeah.
see what happened with, these prisons and the people in them after the transition took place.
Yeah, because they're never brought up again. The only time they were brought up was
Oh, no, I
in
remember.
season one, right? Where we saw uh, Cassian get nabbed by the stupidest thing ever, and
Yeah,
then put into like one of the worst prisons ever, too, right? It's like
right.
Alcatraz level prison for getting nabbed wrongly because he was running or whatever away from somebody else who had actually committed crimes, right? So it's like whatever. He got such the short end of the straw there, but
Yeah.
it is what it is. But yeah, it'd be really cool to kind of see those at least mentioned again. And like you said, not like a show or anything, but even if they were mentioned in a future show as like a hey, do you remember those, containment camp stuff like that, and then
Yeah.
talking about them or mentioning them or somehow working them into a plot would be kind of cool. Give it a little bit of an update, you know. See how the Imperial war machine got tore down a little bit in that sector because it's not brought up ever again.
I wouldn't mind seeing her again, and maybe the New Republic has to use her in some kind of way. I
Hmm.
to
It's not like she's stupid. She knows a
Yeah, to
lot,
go on a
right?
mission. Say, look, you
Hmm.
committed crimes against us, war crimes against us, but we got to get you out of here because we need you on this mission. So,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah,
Exactly.
that would be interesting.
Hmm. Oh yeah, it'd be really cool to see
It
that,
depend on the
but
story. It would depend on the story, and you know, I don't want to see
all
her
that stuff.
see her.
Yeah, me neither, right? And then for other characters like Cyril Karn, who did not, he did get the fate I originally thought she was gonna get.
He got something.
Um,
He
yeah,
got to
yeah,
be in here.
yeah. I didn't realize initially that the title of that episode was going to mean something so dark, right? That "Who are you?"
Who are
line
you?
from Cassian was the last line Cyril had ever heard, and
Yeah,
such a heart-wrenching thing for him because Cyril spent all of his energy, all of his resources to nab Andor from the start, right? From
yeah.
literally episode one of the first season, that was his game plan was to do that. And then for all of it to come to a T, and then for Cassian to not even know who he is crazy work. Like
And
that is,
Cyril wants to be known too.
well, yeah. Even when he gets promoted to like the head of the standard of bureau, like the Bureau of Standards, he immediately starts clouding him like touting himself up. He's like, yeah, I got from that really crappy desk to this position because I found whatever I think it was something to do with fuel shortages or people like scamming fuel sources from the Empire or whatever. And
Yeah, something like
he made it very obvious that he uncovered something huge, right? Something really big, right? Cyril's
that. Yeah.
personality is very inflated. So for him to get absolutely rejected in that way right before he dies is actually nuts. Like, what a change of character. But I didn't think that was going to happen right before that because I thought he was going to have some crazy redemption arc. Like, right before that whole fight happened between him and Cassian, he had probably one of the biggest realizations about the Empire that any one person could probably have
Yeah.
with the Gorman stuff. He I mean, he was super excited to be a part of such a big sting operation, essentially. Um, and then for him to realize what exactly is happening, right? To realize that there's people, mining on the other side of the planet. Those ships have finally landed, and that we're going to stage a massacre. Even for somebody like him, that wasn't something he was willing to go along with, right? And Dedra was just gaslighting herself the whole time. I mean, she was
Hmm.
trying to think of her future more so than anything, being like, oh yeah, well, if we get this to happen, we'll be set forever. And Cyril doesn't buy any of that. But
Well, Cyril was being played too in a lot of ways.
no, yeah, for sure. He was being strung along the whole time. I mean, he kept
Yeah.
sending those Gorman spider artifacts back to his mother, which I thought was really cute. But at the same time, I thought that was also really heart-wrenching because despite everybody's joking opinion of Edie, I mean, her like seeing her in front of the TV, knowing that Cyril probably didn't make it out of that alive was
Yeah.
heart-wrenching. That was also really sad to see that, yeah, as much as she was somewhat of a manipulative mother in some ways, I mean, she still lost a child that day. That was still
Yeah.
really,
And that's the
really, really
toughest thing
sad.
that anyone can go through. Yeah.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. So, yeah. Partagaz, I want to talk about him just a bit.
Hmm.
So in the very last episode, I guess this is more of a question because I kind of skimmed over it in the I read the episode summaries on
Summaries.
Wikipedia here before we started, and I got up late
Hmm.
this morning and just I'm totally
Happens to the best of us.
but
Uh-huh.
I try to pride myself on being more prepared for these, but this one just went right by me. Uh, they told him, well, they're ready for you. And then, of course, we
Hmm.
hear the blaster fire. He obviously kills himself.
Hmm.
Was he going to meet Palpatine, do you think? Or they didn't actually say, did they?
No, they didn't.
Was
But
he just going to meet some
it could have
boy?
been someone like Yularen
He was going to
because
end up dead anyway, I think. I think they were going to,
oh yeah, I think he wanted more control over his fate versus anything
yeah,
else, right? Um, in season one, that room for the ISB featured an appearance from Wolf Gilaren at one
yes,
point, right, where he was coming in to kind of give his 2 cents on the whole situation at Ferrix, I believe, and a
yeah,
couple of other things.
yeah.
Like, he could have been going to meet him. I mean, he's pretty high in the Imperial rank as well. I forget if the timeline, if that works, but I think it does.
No, that does.
Um,
Yularen is in the original. Well, he's been retconned to be in the original Star Wars movie. When they're meeting, that's that whole scene where Vader
mhm,
jumps the one officer. There's that one
mhm.
guy with the white hair and the white mustache and the white uniform in the background.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
retconned that to be Yularen.
which makes sense. So yeah, so for the timeline, depending on where he is at that point, that could be very, very possible. So,
Yeah,
which is good. So I think it's probably more likely that it would be somebody like him, and then like some Imperial, firing squad or whatever would do the
yeah,
duty. But I think it was very interesting to see that throughout this entire show, despite all the political intrigue, we never saw the Emperor at all. Um, and I think that's fine. I think it shows that he plays more of a shadow hand in the back of everything. Like he's
right.
controlling a lot of the dialogue, a lot of the happenings in this Imperial uh setting, but he's never the one to actually pull the trigger. It's somebody else pulling a trigger to get his agenda pushed forward. And then, if somebody happens to pull the trigger in the wrong way and miss a little bit, you get put in imperial prisons or you get shot or something like that, which for all three, Krennic, Dedra, and Partagaz, all of those fates happen to them. They are all people executing orders from Palpatine, I'm sure, and then they don't make it out. That's just how this show moves forward is
That's
definitely,
how, yeah, yeah, that's
yeah,
absolutely right.
reminiscent of a very authoritarian government in that way.
That's what I was going to
So,
say. That's how authoritarian governments work, as I've said before. So,
yep, for
um,
sure.
I think we need to talk about Luthen Rail now. And in conjunction with that, I think we need to talk about Clea, Marky,
Yeah,
side
she
by side
had
with him.
such a good
Yeah,
amount of time in this season.
yeah.
It
Clea
was
is a
really
rock
impressive.
star. Clea is a
Oh
freaking
yeah.
rock star.
Yep. Absolutely. In season one, I liked her as a character, but she was very benched. Like she didn't get as much time to do as much as I think she had the potential to do.
Right.
Right. So for her in this season to get such an active role, I mean, the whole last three episodes were very Clea centric. Um, in this season, she got plenty of time to shine and really show herself as a strong female character too, right? That's a lot of things that some Star Wars fans will say that we don't do or that there isn't enough of, but Clea is a huge, um, I mean, she has a huge part to play in that. She's a very strong female role. Does more than a lot of the male characters do in the show, that's for sure.
Oh
So,
yeah. Oh yeah. I just love the scene where they're at that party and she's trying to get the listening device out of that sculpture. I can't remember what they called it now.
mhm.
And Lonnie is over there helping her or trying to help her.
Yeah.
She's got the tool out, and the others, including Krennic, are
Mhm.
headed over that way.
Yep.
It's like
He's sweating bullets too. She's so,
she
I
is
mean,
too.
yeah.
She's gripping that screwdriver so tight her hand starts bleeding, for
Hmm.
God's sake. And
Yeah.
but she gets the listening device out of there, and then when her and Luthen leave the party, I was it her that said it? Yeah, she says we should have killed Krennic while we were up there.
Yeah, or something like that. I can't remember if that was her or Luthen, but that
I
was
think
really
it was
funny.
her that said it.
Yeah, something like
That was
that. But
great.
oh
And
my
he
God.
just
Yeah.
laughs. He's like, yeah, you're right.
Mhm. Yeah, that was a
Because
really good
we
scene.
never see him laugh. Yeah, I remember it was her that said it because I
Mhm.
saw him laugh and I thought, oh, we never see him laugh. So
Yeah.
she
Yeah, because
really,
normally he's very stressed because he's
he
got a lot to
is.
think about. But no,
He is wound up tight.
that was a very solid scene. We got to see a lot there too.
That was
Also, I thought like the cut between what was it? Because there was what was happening on Cassian's side because they did a very good job of cutting in between all the things that were happening at that time.
well, was that
Um,
while Cassian was on Gorman, disguised as the fashion designer?
that might have been
Remember,
that
I
might have been, but
remember.
I all I can remember from that set of scenes is that they did a very good job like splicing together all those scenes to keep a very tense feel. And if I recall, that was also the third episode of that sequence as well. So they did a very good job of doing what they normally do, which is tying off every like three episodes to having the last one be the most climactic every
Yeah,
time, which
because
really tells the
then we go
story.
into a 1 year time jump to start the next
Mhm.
three. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. I really like that format, and they continued to do it well in this season as well.
I thought that was great. When I first heard it that that's what they were doing, I thought, well, that's odd. I'm glad they did it that way.
It's like four mini movies. We got 12 episodes, three a piece, made up
We
what
got a
seemed like a
Star Wars
movie.
movie every week for 4 weeks straight.
Yeah, we did
That's what we got.
essentially, right? I tried to watch them like that too, because the way that they were releasing them, I was like, I figured this is going to be what they want you to do. They're probably releasing these in three episodes, bouts because they think it's worth the watch in one sitting.
Well, I
Um,
was staying up till midnight on Tuesday nights. I thought, I
just
might
get
have
them.
to watch those on Wednesday morning. No, I went out in the living room
Yeah.
Tuesday night at 9 o'clock and I stayed up till
Hmm.
midnight watching them. I couldn't wait.
Yeah, no, there's no point. It's really easy to get spoiled for that kind of the stuff
Yeah,
too,
yeah.
right? I go on YouTube and my feed knows I want to see that stuff, which is funny because at that moment I really didn't because I
Right.
was trying to stay away from all the spoilers and whatnot. But yeah, it is what it is. I just tried to stay away as much as I could and watch it with a you know clear set of eyes and not be spoiled for anything. But yeah, no, I thought that was really cool. And also touching back on Clea too a little bit, we got to see a lot of flashbacks between her and Luthen,
That's where I want to
which
go next.
I really, really loved that. Showed that
Too.
her sense of rebellion has started super early on, right? And that Luthen behaves a lot like a father figure to her, or I don't know if it's father figure, but that or like older brother, very family oriented, right? Gives her a lot of life lessons towards being an effective rebel, but staying under the radar, right? Because initially, um, Luthen was just selling artifacts, and Clea, jumped in a little bit and helped out with the sale of a few of those or whatever, and they put on a very good facade, right? Nobody's gonna second guess what they're doing, and that's exactly what they continue to do in season one of Andor and season two.
Yeah.
So they built that facade from such a long time ago, and yeah, it was just such a nice thing to see. We get to see where she came from too.
Yeah, that whole thing was nice, and it made his ending more tragic. She
Hmm.
was the one that had to go in, and obviously they were going to nurse him back to health to interrogate him. And
Hmm.
she had to go in there, and she had to end his life so that she couldn't risk them getting to him and making him talk.
Yep, that,
So,
that
and
was
so
the only way
made
to
that
do
whole
it,
thing.
which, yeah,
Yeah,
really, really unfortunate for her to have to be the one to do it.
yeah,
But I mean, talking about her independence again, though, I mean, her being able to pull off that whole operation while the hospital was under severe lockdown was nuts. Like
that was
that whole sequence, right? And during that whole sequence, I believe, is when they were also intermingling those little backstories as well. So you were able to see really a ton. That whole episode, I don't even think Cassian showed up once. The main character of the show never appeared in that episode. That was all about Clea, right? And Luthen, obviously. But I mean, they executed that so well. I think one of the best scenes of the backstory that I liked was when Luthen and Clea were sitting at a table in the diner, and they set up a charge to rig on the bridge. And right when they were about to blow it up, Luthen told her to look at me, don't look at the bridge, because if anybody
that's right.
was interrogated about that whole scenario, they're going to say, hey, well, those two people were looking at the bridge, right, during this whole altercation. Like they were ready for it or something, right? So
Yeah,
then they get pinned, right? So Luthen was dishing her out some serious, like, life lessons towards if you want this to be your life, if you want to fight back as much as I know you wanna, you got to play it really smart. Um,
that's right.
that was probably one of my favorite scenes because it was executed super well, and it showed Luthen to be that main character, in that way, too. Um, I saw theories too, a ton of them Luthen, where people were theorizing that Luthen wasn't the main guy in this whole situation, and that Clea was really like the axis they were looking for in a lot of ways. And I'm not sure how true that is or how well I feel about that. I'd like to think that both of them had a very firm hand in establishing that,
I was
and I'm
just going
not
to say
sure.
that I think they were Axis A and Axis B, probably.
Yeah, I can't label any one of them to be the axis, right? Luthen was obviously the target that like Dedra was looking for. But I mean, Clea had such a firm hand in establishing all of that as well.
That's right.
And because they had established that facade from such an early time, and she saw that firing squad of stormtroopers laid down some very innocent people from the get-go as well. Um, she immediately saw that she needed to fight back, right? So I think both of them had a lot to give, also a lot to lose, right? So I think labeling them both, like you said, Axis A and Axis B is appropriate, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, I think that's how I kind of thought of it. So, yeah. You know something? I'm going to pause here. I have got to get something to drink. It is hot. It is humid where we are.
Absolutely.
We were discussing it before we started the recording. I've got to pause here and go grab something to drink, and then I will be back and we will continue this. So hang right there with us.
All
Okay,
right.
thanks, folks. We both had to go get something to drink here and wet the whistle. The talking kind of makes you dry, especially on a day like today.
Yeah, puts
So,
a toll on it.
yeah,
Could
yeah.
tell we're in
So,
August.
Have you said everything you want to say about Luthen and Clea, you think?
I think so. I mean, what was it?
Because I want to talk about
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only other thing I'd want to say about them was their appearance at Mon Mothma's party. Maybe it's kind of talking a little bit about that
Oh,
party in
that's
general.
right. And we haven't talked about that wedding either. Let's go into
Hmm.
that. What did you think about
No,
that whole? That covered the
I
whole
thought,
episodes.
yeah, I thought that was really interesting. Honestly, very cool cultural perspective because we don't get to see a lot of in-depth dives on cultures, and being able to see Sandrilla in that way was really enlightening. I think it gave a lot to say about Mon Mothma's background too and where she's coming from and some of the chains she's trying to break free of in a lot of ways too. Because
Well,
I
she
don't think
tries to
she likes
talk.
that culture all that
She
much.
tries to talk her daughter out of it there, right on
Yeah,
the day.
yeah. Well, because her arrangement with oh no,
Pa
Perrin.
Perrin Further, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. She wasn't. I mean, he's not the dude for her at all. I mean, he
I don't
has
think he's
his
good for anybody.
no, he has his little speech.
He ends up with Scoldon's wife at the end of it.
I
Remember?
yeah, I noticed that. I was like,
What a
oh, that's crazy.
jackass!
Yeah, I know. They're made for each other, I guess.
I
Whatever.
guess so.
Both a little scummy, right? So it works out. But um, what was I gonna say? Yeah, his
Set the
speech
second the second
when he
ickiest couple in Star Wars
yeah
behind Dedra and Cyril is Perrin
is them.
and
Let's call his
Scoldon's
wife.
wife. I guess
Yeah.
ex-wife now, probably.
Yeah, at that point. But he talks so much about living free and essentially trying to not worry about the anxieties or whatever that cloud your life. And obviously there's an importance to doing that in your everyday life. But all he does is do that. Right? He doesn't really take the time to actually do the things that matter.
No.
And really makes fun of Mon Mothma for doing what she needs to do, which he doesn't know everything about either. So
No, he doesn't.
he is not a great match for Mon, and this arrangement isn't either. Uh, it's just it's very political. They need to get those banking records to look better, and that's why they do it, so that Scaldin can work his hand a little bit.
It's a
But
convenience thing.
oh, 100%. It's convenience for the sake of political strategy and nothing more. But for the sake of the arrangement, um, it doesn't work out, right? Well, I mean, we never get to see that, I guess. But in my opinion, I don't. There's no way. I don't think so. Um, what's the name of Mon Mothma's daughter again? I don't know if I remember that.
Leda, Leida,
Lita or something like yeah, 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 yeah.
Leda. And
She she was she was complaining almost right off the bat, being like, he's such a child. He doesn't want to hold my hand. He doesn't want to, you know, be a
yeah,
man, right? And marry me like he probably should, right? So right off the bat, it's like that's not even that positive. But I mean, they also haven't had much time together to actually get to know each other either, right? They are entirely just forced, right?
oh
They
yeah,
basically they just met each other and are forced to marry, right?
yeah.
So yeah, that whole situation, it's like, yeah, arranged marriages don't typically work in that way. But yeah,
No.
I mean, I thought the party was really interesting, and we got to see a lot more from Tay as well. Uh,
Yeah,
that whole situation was just crazy. I
that was
mean,
weird. But he ended
yeah,
up, yeah, he ended up, we didn't see it happen, but he ended up meeting an
we
alien.
all know it happened, right? So
Cinta is an assassin, basically.
yeah, yeah. I mean, the second we saw her, nothing more needed to be said. She's essentially Luthen's little puppet thing, right? When it needs to happen, stuff like that needs to happen. She's right all over it, right? And obviously, um, it had to be her because nobody else at that point was able, I don't think, or would have had as much striking power to us as the audience either. We all knew that Senta would be the one to do that. So
Right.
kind of crazy, but it also doesn't shock me necessarily that he was impacted so much by this, right? Because I mean, he said himself a lot of his investments were away from the activities that were being bolstered on by rebellious activity. And he saw financial downgrades, and apparently him and his wife have been separated too as a result of those issues. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
he came to
sounds
that
about
party
it
and drank the
too.
whole time, pretty
Yeah.
much. So,
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
yep.
Yeah.
And also immediately threatened blackmail. right afterward.
Oh
And that
yeah.
was the thing. That was the thing that really drove it forward, was that he was willing to expose everything that Mon Mothma worked so hard to get to.
Mhm.
And I mean, Luthen was there for more than one reason, other than just installing a statue for Skulldugg. And that was it as well. I think he had a feeling that, there were a couple of acquaintances that may or may not be present at this little party that needed to be engaged with, and this was one of them. So he
Yeah.
knows where he needs to be. Luthen didn't waste his time.
Brought
He
Cinta
he was in the right
back.
spot.
Cinta is, I'm going to steal a line from a James Bond movie now. Cinta's not a problem solver. She's a problem eliminator.
Yeah, no, 100%. She doesn't find reasonable solutions to anything. She just takes them away. It
Right.
followed through, which is fine. In this situation, it worked quite well, I think.
Yep.
We never saw him again, so I think
Oh,
there's
he's dead.
enough
Yeah.
said.
Yeah.
Enough said.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but
So
yeah, no,
then
I think that party was pretty cool. I had a good time
we
watching
should
them.
talk about Cinta then, because
Yeah.
she met, unfortunately, a tragic end also.
Mhm. Yep, she did. She was one of the bigger players in that Gorman setup, essentially. This was,
Uh,
I think, the second
Heist.
arc of the heist, right? She was involved in like, I think that was the second arc, or second 3 episode
Think so. Yeah.
piece, because the third one
Was
was
the
all of the
massacre.
Gorman massacre stuff, right? So this was her kind of setting up stuff after Cassian said he doesn't want anything to do with it. Like, he said, "Oh, I'm all set." Right? He went in disguised as the what was he, like an art inspector or something
Yeah.
Richie, really Richie, because he
Yeah.
was trying to fit in with the crowd, obviously.
Oh yeah.
And despite, he heard plenty enough to get a feel that this maybe isn't the most stable rebellion. We have a feeling he was very confident that whatever was going to happen here was going to end poorly. And that's why he didn't want any part of it. I think for him, it probably felt very reminiscent to what was happening at Ferrix, right? They were fighting an uphill battle in a lot of bad ways. And he didn't want to start on another big problem like that. Um, so then, yeah, Q and Cinta and a bunch of other rebellious people, very reminiscent of French Revolution, by the way. This whole culture was very French based,
I think
in the way that they talked.
Tony Gilroy said, yeah, the Gorman resistance was based off the French
Yeah.
resistance during World War II. Yeah.
Even the language they made up for it had a lot of tie-ins to French dialect and whatnot.
The
So
language sounded
they
very
they
French.
they did a very good job establishing that, making
Yes.
sure that tie was obvious, and the historical significance was there too.
Yeah.
But yeah, so through all of that heist to get things moving forward, this was a direct defiance against that armory that they were putting in the town square, and she didn't make it out. She got, and it wasn't even that she got shot by an Imperial. It was literally a misfire from
It was just a
people in the
weird,
rebellion.
yeah, it was like a side confrontation that was going on with this
Hmm.
one guy. I think his name was Lazine or something like that. And
Something.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Caught in the stray, though. I mean, completely.
caught in the crossfire.
Um, exactly, right. Which makes
Yeah.
it sting even more, right? A lot of the characters that we got to know in season one died in ways that weren't really satisfying. Right? And
Brasso too, the way
not to
Brasso
say
died.
it's satisfying, but you know what I mean,
Oh
right? Like,
no,
it wasn't. We didn't get as big of a send off as I think we were going to get for some of these characters, right? Like you mentioned,
they were
Brasso.
just gone.
We never saw him actually get shot. I don't think he was dead.
Yeah.
Right? Which is, for the sake of storytelling, that made a lot of sense, right? Because Brasso wasn't really a character in season two that was moving anything forward. He was just present there, which was, good. I mean, I'm glad that he was able to find a life after Ferrix and everything, but you know, at that moment, he wasn't the character that was being focused on, and he did eventually meet his fate as a result of it. And so it makes it sting, right? It makes it sting in a way that a lot of us weren't expecting, right? Because you see Cassian's raw emotion too when he finally gets there with that experimental TIE fighter,
Yeah.
and he's like, I don't know how to feel about this. Like, I never saw it, I couldn't help it, and I couldn't do anything, right? So you see those characters like this, and they pass away in the most unfortunate, anticlimactic ways, and that's how it happens in real life too sometimes. So
I got to take a sidebar and talk about him stealing that TIE fighter
mhm.
and where he landed. And it was revealed when he finally escaped from those
Yeah,
rebels that was Yavin 4. That was
Yavin
amazing.
4. Yeah, yeah, I
I
remember
enjoyed
that.
that.
That
Yeah,
was crazy. I
that was
liked all
nuts.
that whole interaction too. I thought it was very misplaced initially. I was like, this is a very weird, like
Yeah, I
for
did
us to
think so too.
start season two, I was like, this is a very weird arc for us to be starting with. When there's a lot of other important things happening too with that Mothma wedding and stuff like that we would be just mentioned.
Yeah.
Um, I thought it was very out of place. But initially, that's what I thought, but I don't feel that way anymore. Um, because we progressed all the way throughout this season, we saw Rebellion get more and more and more structured, opposed
Yes.
from being, as sporadic. That was a very sporadic rebellious group, right? Kind of like a Saw Gerrera partisans type thing, but even more split up from that because they at least can agree on Saw Gerrera being their leader. But in this scenario, they didn't have anything. They didn't even really know what they're fighting for. They just know that they don't like
Fighting, they're
the
spending more
Empire.
time fighting with each other.
Exactly. They don't like the Empire, but they also don't like each other, right? So
Huh.
for them to be able to support a rebellion, you can't go around killing your own rebels because you're going to eventually lose, right? And that's what Cassian's saying. He's like, "What are you doing? None of you guys are like this isn't organized, right? You guys are going to fall through." So when he got the chance to leave, finally, he took it, and I'm sure
Yeah.
they didn't make it. I'm sure none of them were on Yavin 4 when we actually got there because there were too many beasts and monsters and whatnot that were around for any of them to make it
Ah,
right. It's
I
kind
bet.
of kind
Didn't
of
didn't one
crazy.
guy get eaten or he got trampled on or something?
Well, they said they were looking for some of their comrades, and then they're like, "Oh, there's a boot here, but there's still a foot
His foot
missing,
is
and
still in it.
nobody else is there." So
That
it's
was
like,
awful.
okay, very interesting. I didn't realize Yavin 4 housed so many
Yeah. Did you
crazy
find so
creatures,
and
but
so? Well, we found his boot and his foot is still in it.
yeah, so probably
Yeah.
not still kicking, but yeah, so I mean, as originally as I thought that was a misplaced arc, but it grew on me quite a bit because
Yeah,
I
I
felt like it
did.
was
Yeah.
very reminiscent of the early stages of Rebellion, and then it was really cool to
Yes.
look back on all of that once we had gotten to the end of the series where we saw everything kind of meshed together as a full Yavin 4 base where everybody is like cool with each other. I mean, they have fights, but they don't go around shooting each other either, right? So there was a big,
Right.
big, big, big time jump too, and it was very obvious that the rebellious structure had changed as well.
Oh,
Um,
definitely. Yeah.
but yeah, for sure. You want to talk a
Uh,
little bit about Saw Gerrera too? We saw him quite a
you
bit.
know what? You read my mind again. That is exactly where I wanted to go to Saw Gerrera next.
Yeah, yeah.
Saw Gerrera just, I don't think now now that we've seen season two, I think we know
Mhm.
now that his oxygen, well, his mask, we'll call it,
It's not for
he has
oxygen
in Rogue
anymore, I
One.
don't
I don't
think.
think that's for oxygen.
No,
I
no,
mean,
no.
he's
I originally thought it was because he was so like physically destroyed
damaged.
that he needed oxygen to keep his lungs from, to actually live and survive. But now that we got that whole like rhydonium, that's what it is, right?
Rhydonium, yes, that's
Yeah, yeah, that whole heist or whatever of his
yep.
and being like it reminds me of my sister. And I was like, "Oh, okay."
Oh, that hit
So
me hard when he said
that was crazy. I mean, it people deal with loss in a lot of different ways, right? But he definitely took it possibly the worst way, right? Because he immediately went
that.
crazy. I mean, everything with Steela was his life at that point, and for her
Correct.
to get taken away from him so quickly doesn't shock me that he's trying to essentially chase down those feelings and radicalize everything because he's trying to do everything in the most extreme way possible to make her memory whatever more impactful. um and then going for the rhydonium and breathing it in, which almost kills, what is it, Will? I think was the guy who
Yeah,
was.
Will Pack, I think his name is.
Yeah, yeah, he was. I mean, he took that breath and like crazy acting, by the way.
I
Like he
thought he
took
had
that.
died. I honestly thought he had died,
Oh,
but
yeah,
we
I thought
saw
it was
him
over
later,
for
so
him.
obviously he didn't.
Yeah, he took that deep breath and like the way his body reacted to it was crazy. But I also,
Yeah.
just despite Saw's craziness and enjoying that fume, I thought what he had to say at that moment was very moving, impactful,
Yes, it
because he
was.
had something to do with like this is what rebellion looks like, boy. So, stuff like that, right? He was like, you got to take risks for rebellion to pay off in the way that we do it. Um,
Yeah.
which in a lot of ways is true for Saw especially. I think he probably takes those words way too seriously, but I thought it was very moving for his character to say it that way, and for Will to get that kind of. I mean, he got every side of rebellion you could imagine. He was working with Luthen, and then he worked with Saw for a little bit, and then he went and worked for the rebellion at Yavin 4. He got a piece of everything
Oh yeah, he
and
did.
got to see it all. And he also started his own rebellion when his father was um, tortured by Dr. Gorst as well. So
Yeah, that's right.
they're quite his character is quite nice. I like to see Will's progression because he had so much to do in this season as well, and fighting his own little rebellion and seeing where he fits the best was also pretty interesting.
Yeah.
But
Saw has a very radical view on how a rebellion should operate, but
mhm.
in some ways, it's a very correct view.
He's very guerrilla
Unfortunately,
in,
yeah,
in that way, right?
yeah, yeah. So you mentioned Dr. Gorst. We got to
Mhm.
talk about his end too, because that was
Yeah.
awesome. And then it
Hmm.
was Bix, and we'll talk about her.
Yeah.
Uh,
I was so
Bix,
sure. I was so sure that that was going to be the whole point of the next arc after this show, or after that arc had finished
yeah,
or had remotely finished. I was like, oh, they're gonna spend the next three episodes dealing with this problem. I'm sure of it.
right.
And then we get that ending scene, and I'm like, oh, they're taking care of it right now.
We're just gonna get this
And
out of
they're
the way right now.
yeah, because Bix was having issues with addiction at that time. At that point, she
Yeah,
was
she's addicted to sleeping
taking
pills
drugs
or pills, but yeah.
to help her sleep because that's the first time we see her in this season too, is she's having a nightmare about Dr. Gorst,
Right. She had a couple
which
different ones,
is
I think.
extremely real considering the
Yeah.
torment that he was putting her through.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine. Um, so for her to be the one to metaphorically pull the trigger was really quite nice,
She
right?
made him listen
Also
to his
putting him through all of it too.
recording. She made him listen to his own recording
Hmm.
that he put
Yep.
her through. That was awesome.
Yep.
That was
Absolutely.
awesome.
And then
Yep.
destroying all that area too, or,
Yep.
took him out as well as destroying all the records of the stuff that he
Yep.
had for his
She meets
equipment.
up
It
with
took out,
Cass. She meets up with Cassie, and they just do the whole walking away while he pushes the button.
yeah, super Joker-esque in
Very
the
much.
second Dark Knight movie. I liked
Very
that.
much
That
like The
was
Dark Knight. Yeah.
yeah, I
That's
thought
a
that was
great
really
movie,
cool.
by the way. That's a
Yeah,
great
that is a great
reference.
movie.
Yeah, that's
I
awesome.
thought it was very reminiscent
I
of
like
that. It was very,
I
very
like the Batman.
chaotic.
I like the
Oh
Batman
yeah.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, they do a good job for sure.
Yeah, they're awesome.
But
So
yeah, so they destroyed all the records of that too.
yeah.
So all of that imperial torture method was also taken out of the picture after that too, which I thought was, I mean, perfect. Very, very poetic for Bix to be able to take that final blow, considering she experienced all of it. So I really liked that, even though it was just at the end of an episode instead of a whole arc. I don't know. It wasn't really worth it, in my opinion. I don't think to draw that out anymore. Them formulating that plan off screen didn't bother me because we got to see it executed. And I'm not sure it would have been visually as appealing to see that plan get thought through. But
Oh, they had a lot.
either way,
If they would have maybe had another 3 episodes, maybe they would have had 15 episodes to work with instead of 12. They could have done something like that.
sure. Yeah, exactly.
But
But
they knew
even with what we got,
they basically then had to get to the Gorman massacre, and then the last three were partially the aftermath of the Gorman massacre,
mhm,
partially the realization of holy crap, the Empire is building something. We're not quite sure what yet, but
mhm.
it's that
As
that
well as trying to get
yeah,
Clea away from Coruscant after all the
yeah.
Luthen stuff had happened as well.
Mm,
Um, which was also crazy because we finally got to see at the end of the Gorman Massacre, we got to see K2SO come out and finally get
yep.
created, which was very interesting because I wasn't sure what they were going to do for his origin, even though we did know he was going to be a part of it. Or at least we speculated that he was going
Right.
to be a part of it. Um, and then getting to see that he was one of the droids that's used essentially illegally in the Gorman massacre, because I'm pretty sure those weren't like a legal way of suppressing the crowd.
No, but a authoritarian government doesn't care about that.
Oh, they don't care either. No, it's whatever for them. But being able to see that that's where he came from and that the rebellion was able to take a use out of that torment was
Right.
at least pretty cool, right? Because he became such a pivotal point. Um, for the rebellion. I mean, a very useful gadget and also a very personable droid at the end of the day. Very, very cool
Oh,
to hear his little
absolutely.
quips. He was pretty
Yeah,
funny.
I love the
I
way they I love the way they reprogrammed him,
oh
made
yeah.
it very
Yeah.
personable and yeah,
Yeah. His
yeah,
first remark being like, "Why are you all pointing weapons at me?" When
yeah.
he's like just essentially reborn. What are
Yeah.
we doing? But I mean, obviously they are tormented by what they had saw before, so of course they're concerned. But I
Yeah.
thought it was pretty cool
And we see
to see him utilize.
he's always trying to get Cassian to do the right thing because he's always said, well, aren't you going to follow the flight plan?
Hmm.
No,
Oh,
we're going to
always.
follow
Yeah,
the
he is the C3PO of the group, but he's very regimented in the same way, very questioning of out of
Yeah.
the ordinary plans, right? I also liked the scene where him, Cassian, and I think oh, it wasn't Will. They were playing cards.
Oh, yes, that was a good scene too, where they were
That
playing.
was a great scene.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
can't
because
remember the
it
guy.
showed he was really witty. I really liked how
Oh,
K2SO was
yeah.
like, pretty sure you're cheating
Yeah,
or something
yeah,
like
yeah.
that. He was like, this is impossible. You can't be this good or whatever. And it was a really real moment where Cassian wasn't necessarily
It
taking
kind
the
of
fire.
it kind of ties into the Rise of Skywalker when they were playing the chess game there, and they were
Mhm.
accusing Chewbacca of cheating.
Cheating. Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah. And then he turns
So,
off the board because he's like, I'm done with this
yeah.
or whatever.
Oh, they're holograms, Chewie. You can't do that.
Yeah, no, no. I thought that was really funny too. But no, I like those little moments too, where you get to see the main characters kind of
Yeah.
step out of some of their action roles and get to see them as real people. Because in the span of those 4 years, despite us only getting little snippets out of each of them, Cassian, I'm sure, had time to do a lot of stuff like that. But he was
Oh, yeah.
also a soldier for the rebellion, so he had a lot of busyness to take care of as well. But at
Right.
least I'm at least glad that we got to see some of the downtime as well. Um, but yeah, and then K2SO also played a big part in being able to get um in the rescue plan at the end of the 3 episodes for Clea,
Oh,
being able
that's
to
right.
to play
Yes.
part in that was
Yep.
really cool. Um and her being able to tell Cassian about what she had heard because she essentially was playing everything off of memory. Luthen told her the rundown of what he heard from Lonnie, and she was forced to remember, recite all of that so that when Cassian finally got there, she was like, I can't forget any of this. This has got to
Yeah,
be said
exactly.
just how I was told it. Um, but I thought that whole assault was really well done as well. And then for Dedra's little assistant to act as straight cannon fodder
Oh,
for
yeah.
all of the soldiers because K2 held him up and was like, you're gonna shoot your own guy? Really? Really?
Yeah.
I thought that was really,
I almost
really
forgot about that
quite
scene.
something.
Yeah, I almost
Yeah,
forgot about
yeah.
that.
I had a hard
I'm glad
time
you mentioned
forgetting
that.
it because
That
I
was
thought it was really funny. Like,
yeah.
very grotesque, but I didn't like that guy. So I thought it was
Oh, I
really
didn't.
funny
He was
the
awful.
way that they planned it out. But I mean, that whole assault was executed super well. Them being able to jam the comms as well. That whole guessing game, essentially in between all of
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
that yeah, it was all very well executed. Um, and then all the aftermath. I mean, Clea's biggest concern about all of this was not being believed, right? Because her and Luthen's approach towards rebellion was just as different um, as what's going on at Yavin. Not so different from Saw, right? But a little bit more tame, right? They're all playing different hands in the rebellion. I think it's very real of her to be concerned that she's not going to be liked or not be welcomed in with open arms.
Yep. Yeah.
But
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So we've talked about Bix a little bit before, so we should probably talk about her just a bit. And
mhm.
as if her trauma under Dr. Gorst wasn't enough, some Imperial officer, some sleazebag tries to
Yeah,
rape. You know,
hmm
I wanted to go right through that TV screen and choke the living.
yeah.
Okay, we're gonna get our first swear on the show. I want to choke the living shit right out of him.
Oh yeah, he's a horrible guy. Actually
There, we got
awful.
our first swear on the Master and Apprentice Show. Congratulations. But
I think it's
that's
it's
the only
it's
way I
worth
could think of
it.
to put it.
It's worth it in this scenario.
It's a
Bro
worth
is
it. Well, if the show now is starting to use that word, then I guess we can use the
yeah,
word.
they did.
I mean,
They did.
we won't use it all the time. Well. We'll drop an
when
S.
it matters. So situations like this, it's important. We
Yeah, it
have to
got
speak our mind a
fair.
little bit
Yeah.
about
So
this
she
stuff.
goes through that. So she kills him, which is the great part,
Yep.
and then they get out of there. But then we find out, that she and Cassian kind of rekindle their relationship and they're
Hmm.
living together in the safe house on Coruscant.
Yep.
And
That's when she
other
started
tough
using those
scene was
drugs
when
too.
she, then the other tough scene was when she left. She decided she had to leave because she realized Cassian, I think after talking to the Force healer, she realized Cassian's journey was going to be different, going to have
Oh,
to be
way
different
different.
than
Oh,
hers.
absolutely. Yep. That force healer saw a lot in him. His knew his potential, knew what he was built to do.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, and yeah, she didn't want to hold him back. She felt that this was irresponsible of her to stay around, knowing what he can do and knowing that he is willing to leave with her if she sticks around,
Right.
right?
Right.
Super heart-wrenching. And for it to come from a
Oh,
letter of all things was just like when he walked in and she wasn't there, I knew it was like this is it. That's the last time we're ever gonna
yeah.
see her. And them that scene where he was reading it and she was speaking to the screen as she was writing it
We were going back and
was
forth. Yeah.
that was so heartbreaking
They did
because
that
I mean
very well.
it really made you feel
Yeah.
every feeling that Cassian was going through
Yeah.
at that moment.
Yeah.
And but I mean, hey, you look at him in a year afterward, and he's doing exactly what he needed to be doing, right? So despite that being as heartbreaking as it was,
Yeah.
or what she wanted did happen as a result. But in the worst way too, at the end of the show, the final scene being her with obviously Cassian's child
Right.
hurt even more, right? Such a stinger, right? Her looking up at the sun with this child
Yeah.
made me feel a lot like the ending scene of Rogue One, where Cassian was looking at the explosion caused by the
It's
Death
true.
Star, and they were
Yeah.
both looking at very bright objects right before something horrible happened, right? And her not being able to have a father for her child around is really
Yeah.
that really stinks. That sucks a lot.
Yeah,
But
it does. But you would hope that maybe that child grew up and maybe ended up becoming someone who fought against the First Order.
yeah, very very potentially.
You know,
Yep.
would have been
It's
among
also
the gang.
possible that she was able to keep her child out of harm's way, and they both lived heavily or happily ever
Just
after
maybe just lived
farming
a
farming
quiet life
stuff.
somewhere. Yeah, yeah,
Which for everything Cassian put forward for the initial rebellion against the Empire, I think I almost like that ending better because it allows them to
yeah.
finally rest after all the time that they
I
put in.
agree.
Um, See, I actually don't mind if the child lives a happy life without having to fight, despite it being more of a I'm trying to think because the child that Kanan had inevitably did end up kind of joining the fight, right? So
Well, right.
not every child gets the same treatment there, right?
Yeah,
He is inevitably going to end up fighting, I'm sure.
yeah,
But this could be a situation where maybe that doesn't happen, which, for the sake of,
yeah.
his life and stuff like that, I
It would
almost like to see
be
that.
nice to find out that the kid never picked up a blaster ever in his life.
Ever, right, because I'm sure
You
with all
know.
the trauma that both Cassian and Bix have
Yeah,
suffered through, it's only fair, I think, that
yeah,
that doesn't have to
yeah.
happen.
Absolutely,
So,
absolutely.
but yeah, that was such a good
Yeah.
way to end off that show, and I did not expect it at all. When they cut back to the planet, I was like, oh well, there's B2 emo again. I thought that was really cool because we didn't get to see him very much.
Yeah.
But for him to be on that planet like happy, right? I mean, chasing around other droids, stuff like that. I was like, for
Yeah.
all the torment and despair that we just saw throughout this whole season,
Yeah.
some people from the first season and even initial parts of the second season got to live out their lives in peace, right?
Oh, that's
Despite all
right.
that, which is really really quite nice. But
Yeah. Yeah.
kind of tying in with that ending sequence too, because the way that they did that ending sequence was so beautifully well done, with the music building up
Oh,
from
yeah.
from nothing and then just like piling on to be such an
Flourish.
amazing
Yeah.
it was so beautiful. And I mean, that's where we learned about Dedra's fate. It's where we saw Krennic overlooking his Death Star finally, being built, as
Saw
well as
was on Jeddah.
Cassian's.
Saw
Yep,
was on Jeddah.
yep. Saw his look on Jeddah,
Yeah.
right? And then Cassian with his walk to the ship, and then catching the glimpse of that Force healer again.
Yeah.
Which, like, if that didn't cement anything to, like, that's one of the most slept on characters I think in this entire season was that Force healer in the sense that she was able to see everything, I think, right from the get-go, and seeing that Cassian's potential was so large. To see her final stare at Cassian, I mean, it just tells you that what's coming literally directly next after this is going to be some intense stuff. And
Yeah.
then yeah, you finish Andor season 2, immediately segue into Rogue One, and the show doesn't skip a beat.
No, it
Like
wasn't.
I've seen some people say that, oh, they should watch Andor before Rogue One. I disagree. I as much as that makes sense chronologically, I think it's the same argument I have for watching the OT before you watch the prequels, right? Sure, chronologically that doesn't make sense,
Right.
but you get to establish yourself with characters that are so heavily influenced in cinema and then go back to see what their story is like. And I think you have a lot less of a tie to those characters when you don't already know them from before. So
You're talking about someone new to Star Wars
someone new to Star
coming
Wars
into it
watching,
cold. Yeah, I agree
yeah,
on that.
watching it cold. They
Yeah,
should
you go
watch it
release
in
order.
release order,
Yeah.
not in order with like the chronological order. Despite that making more sense, I think there's a lot of cool stuff you pick up when you watch Andor second in that list, and then watch Rogue One afterward, right? Or
Right.
before, and then maybe again afterward, because you catch a bunch of stuff when you do it that way too. Um, yeah, to me, if I was a new Star Wars person, I would want to watch Rogue One first, and
When I went to
then
my physical this
afterward.
spring, my doctor said, I've never seen Star Wars. He said, how do I watch them? I said, you got to watch them in release order first.
Uh-huh.
So you got to watch the original trilogy, you got to watch the prequel trilogy, and then you got to
Yep,
watch the sequel trilogy.
absolutely. Yeah,
And then if
It
you
would have
want to
so much
watch,
less
yeah,
of an impact if I watched the prequels first, saw Anakin become Darth Vader, and
yeah,
then be like, who's that? And then all of a sudden go through all of the OT being like, oh, I know exactly who that is, right?
oh
The
yeah,
whole appeal of watching the original trilogy is that you don't know who that is for the first like
right.
movie and a half. And then you're like, oh, what? He's his father all along? That's
Yeah,
crazy, right? And then
that's
you're like, okay, well,
nuts.
hold on,
Oh my God.
because then the redemption at the end of their movie makes so much more sense, right? And
Exactly.
then you go back and revisit that character, and you're like, this is where he came from. He's just a child on Tatooine, and general of the Grand Republic, and all that wonderful stuff, right? But same thing goes for this, right? Watching Andor first doesn't make any sense to me. You would definitely want to
No,
watch that
no, you
second.
watch Rogue One. You watch Rogue One first, and then you watch the series if you want to get the backstory. Yeah.
Absolutely. But yeah,
I
I thought the way that they ended it was just
yeah.
beautiful. I
So we
loved
ain't
it.
talk about Cassian too, but we see him so much. I think we want to maybe. I just want to say what my favorite scene or my favorite maybe arc with him was. And
Sure.
my
Yeah,
favorite
that
was
one's
when he rescued Mon Mothma.
yeah. That was a really we haven't talked about that much either, actually. That was a really solid sequence there. That was well done in every way. Being able to see her speech in that way,
Yep.
as well as all of the secrecy behind how she's going to get out, right? Because there was a bunch of
Yes.
doubt between her and Luthen being like, "Can I really trust you? I saw what you did with Tay, right? Going back to the Tacoma thing, she
Right.
knows what happened with Tay, right? For her to get rescued by Luthen brings in a veil of risk that could happen again, and it could happen with her this time, right? So there's a lot to be said for her doubts there. Um, but then also finding out that Bail Organa's rescue team isn't it's not all that, right? It's infiltrated,
Yeah.
right? But her ability to try to believe one of these sides is what really tears her apart. But Cassian's ability to go in there and establish immediate faith with her about it is, I mean, it's so impressive. He has such a charisma to him to make stuff like that pay off really well. It was really nice.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And her speech was awesome. And I saw complaints that, it was different than what we saw in Rebels.
Mhm.
I'm fine with that. I
I
mean,
think it is. So I've seen. some theories about this being like, oh, well, she re-recorded it for mass
I've
distribution
seen
because
that one.
The Empire deleted the first one or whatever, they cut
Yeah,
it too short, whatever. I
I
think
don't.
that's a possibility. The other possibility is obviously just like, oh, well, they hadn't made Andor yet, and they chose to
Well,
kind
that's
of
in real
retcon it
life.
in live action a little bit. I mean, we look at exaggerated features all the time in the Clone Wars, right? And we don't expect Count Dooku's face to be as long as that in live action, you know what I mean? But because it's not so long in live action, we should start complaining, right?
Yeah,
You know, it's
right,
just
right,
it is one of those things where it's like you look at it realistically and you're like, sure, it could very well be that she re-recorded. But at
right.
the same time, it could very well be the exact same speech coming from a different medium, and we just saw it in different ways from different characters that, depending on how they told their story, could have literally remembered it differently. You know what I mean? So it's
Right.
that's just how it is. I don't think it's a hill to die on necessarily,
No, it isn't.
that
And
because
some
they're
people are
different.
dying on that. Some people are dying on that hill, and it's like, okay,
No, creative
you go ahead and do
anything.
that, and I'll.
Yeah, Tony Gilroy had the way that he wanted to establish the scene. And if he went
Correct.
back and watched Rebels and saw, hey, maybe that's not how I want her to say that or how I want her to dress or whatever, he has the liberty in every way to change that. So he did, right? And I
Well,
think
the
it's totally
K2SO
fine.
origin story, the K2SO origin
Yeah, they
story.
changed that too.
He knew that there was a comic book that that told that story of how he and Cassian met, and he basically said, "Yeah, I'm going to tell my own story."
Yeah. And it makes a lot of sense in this way, right? That he came from Gorman, right? That's a
Yeah,
hugely pivotal moment in Cassian's life at this point,
right.
especially because he didn't want to be involved with it, which is another thing.
Yeah, he was kind of
But
unwilling for discipline.
for K2SO to come out of that, um, I mean, it makes sense for the storytelling in this
Right.
show. It just made a ton of sense, right? And now that it's in live action, this is the canon, that's the legend, whatever,
Yeah.
right? So we kind of take it as it is. But yeah, I mean, tons of things in live action are going to be potentially different from what we either see in animation or comics. And it's not to say that one of them gets retconned or whatever. I think I choose to believe both. I saw them both. They both told the same message despite saying it a little differently, and maybe Mon Mothma dressing a little differently. I don't think that defeats the purpose of what she had to say. I think she still said something that was profound and it got out there. Right?
Back in the Legends days, before Disney bought the franchise,
Mhm.
the movie, I mean, the prequels themselves retconned, or I shouldn't even say retcon, I should say made null and void. I don't know how many books and comic books.
Oh yeah. So did
Yeah.
the sequels. The sequels did a ton. They
Oh
rewrote a
yeah.
lot.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, we had the whole sequence of what is it, the Dark Apprentice novel or comic books too, where I it was what was it? Luke was didn't he like turn to the dark side a little bit or something
He did. Yeah.
in those?
Dark Empire. You're thinking of Dark Empire.
Oh yeah, Dark
Dark
Empire. You're right.
Empire. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but either way, so it's like those comics exist, right?
Now I'll tell you
But
one thing they did stick with. They did it differently, and they didn't really
mhm.
explain it. They explained it better in the Dark Empire comics. Palpatine did come back through cloning
Yeah, they did.
in
Yeah,
those
I
comics.
saw
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I mean, they
but
had the
either way,
content sitting there for that anyway.
oh
So,
yeah, yeah. It's not unheard of for anybody in Star Wars to change the way the story is
yeah.
told,
Yeah.
and even just what happens, like straight up, like it's not. This is not the
So
first time.
why did some fans like to say why did what the sequel trilogy did, or what the Rise of Skywalker specifically
Uh,
did, why did that bastardize Anakin's sacrifice at the end of Return of the Jedi, but what they did in the Dark Empire comics didn't? Palpatine
mhm.
came back.
Yeah, exactly. They just did
you
it in a little
know
bit of a different way.
just did
Yeah.
it a little differently. you
Uh-huh.
know
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, there's definitely a big difference there. Or
yeah,
sorry, not a big difference there, but the way that people perceive it is going to be rather massive.
that's it.
So,
Well, and we live in an era now where people complain about everything, so
yeah, exactly. But yeah, no. So
so
those little differences didn't bother me, but whatever.
no. So why don't we give our final thoughts, and then we'll move on to those Tales of the Underworld shorts, and go ahead
Sure.
and give your final thoughts, what you thought. Tell us maybe something maybe you didn't like, because we like to be fair. If there's anything you didn't like in the
Hmm.
series, we'll look at both. We'll include both seasons, not just season two. So
Okay.
go ahead and give your final thoughts. And
Sure. I think overall, Andor as a project is probably my most favorite live action Star Wars
Mhm.
project that has ever been brought to screen.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people would probably agree with me
yeah. Oh,
in that situation. I think the way that they executed it, like we mentioned before in the 3 episode arcs, where you get essentially a movie every time, is just so beautifully well done. We were able to see from season one Cassian become so much more than what he was originally. Initially looking for his sister, and then becoming a full-fledged rebel at the end of the second season. We get to see so much character growth, so much progression, so much loss, and the way that they're able to execute all of that with the political intrigue, with great action sequences, with a ton of unique characters that we had never seen before either. Andor pulled off all the stops. They did such a great job to make a very unique Star Wars project that doesn't rely too much on fan service either, right? It did a very good job to write a unique story and full fledged it, like just actually amazing. Um, for the sake of a negative, that's a hard one. I don't know if I have
well, if
too
you can't,
many.
no, I'm not saying you should come up with one just for the sake of coming up with one, but I was thinking
That's
if you
fair.
did have a thought, go ahead.
Yeah, I think the only thing that I would have liked to see a little differently is the way it maybe seeing a little bit more in terms of the second season because we had such a big time jump, right? We had 5 years worth of time, right? And
Yeah.
originally the plan was to have a series or a season every year, right? There's a lot of details that I thought were fine being left out, but there's also a few things that I would have liked to see touched on a little bit more. And I'm blanking on a direct example of that, but I know I have a few where that's the case, right? Something
Absolutely.
even as simple as why that TIE experimental, like why capturing that TIE fighter was so important to Cassian, right?
Well,
We
where
never
did that
got to
end
see.
up? Yeah, we never got a clear explanation. Where did that end up?
Yeah, we don't know either, right? So there are a couple things like, the reason for that heist, where that came into play, a bunch of
Right.
stuff like that, where it's like, I don't think it impacted his story any to make those
Oh,
assumptions more well fledged out in the storyline. But if I had to say that, something I wanted more of, I'd probably just say more content. That the content that they produce is just like phenomenal. But more of it would have been, I would have never complained about having more of it.
yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
but yeah, go ahead for you.
I think I would just echo what you've said. I think again the political aspects are what I enjoy. I've said before on the show, the political episodes of the Clone Wars are some of my favorite ones. This was almost entirely a politically driven show.
Mhm.
So this is way up there on my list as far as favorite Star Wars stories go. And I think as far as negatives go, I think you talked about fan service. I would have liked to seen maybe just
A
a
little
touch
bit.
more. I would have liked to have
Sure.
seen Palpatine, maybe just in a
Mhm.
hologram talking
Yeah.
to
We
Partagas.
talked about that too in our
Yeah,
anticipations. Like when we had seen the trailer and talked a little bit about the trailer, we were saying, well, maybe it's a possibility we see him, right? And we, going back to that Dedra scene where she was freaking out after
no, he
everything
was force choking her.
went to crap, right? We thought, oh, well, maybe she's being force choked. No,
Yeah.
she was just having an anxiety attack,
And
like
Star
straight
Wars
up
Explained
panic.
Star Wars Explained were the ones that were saying, well, she may just be having a panic attack here. Well, as it turned out, he had inside information because they got an advance release of the 12 episodes.
Oh,
He got to see them before, or I should
oh
say
my
they got to
gosh.
see them
That's so funny. But
before.
he hit the nail on the head really
Yeah,
well.
Alex and Molly
So,
got to watch them before any of the rest of us did.
hmm
So he was dropping little breadcrumbs for us there.
yeah,
We
yeah.
weren't
As to not
listening.
get
We
their
weren't
people's
listening.
hopes
Yeah, we came up
too
with,
high.
sorry, Alex and Molly. If you do happen to stumble on this, we disagreed with you, but it's fine. So,
Oh
we're
yeah,
the ones that
whatever.
were wrong.
It's good that we have our own opinions too,
Yeah,
for a lot of stuff. But
yeah,
initially I was really hoping for something like that, but no, it didn't work out. But at the same time, as much as I would have liked to see Palpatine, I thought it was a very heavy comment that so much happened without him being there. Either, right? Being able to say that he has such a firm grasp on everything that he doesn't even need to show up for stuff like this to happen.
Well, and I'll tell you something too. I think I've said this before too, maybe not on the show, and maybe just to you, in a private phone conversation. Um, Dictators tend to, after they're in power, they withdraw. from the
Mm,
people, and they don't make appearances. Adolf Hitler spent all of his time. He had a camp or something up in the mountains, and I don't think
mm,
it was even in Germany. I think it was in Austria because he was originally from Austria, and he had a camp up there. He spent all his time at this mountain camp that he owned. And he only went to Berlin if he needed to be there. He only went to Berlin if he needed to sign something that absolutely needed his signature,
mhm,
or if they were throwing a parade in his honor,
mhm.
obviously.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's
yeah, that sort of thing. So,
yeah. Or if you watch Indiana Jones when they're doing a book burning. I don't know if you
oh,
remember that
oh,
scene.
does he show up? I still haven't checked the Indiana.
He does. Indiana
I know he's
has
in
a
there.
very valuable journal, and they're at a book burning, and he ends up getting in line for a book signing by
Oh,
accident with Hitler, and Hitler signs a journal that has a bunch of anti-Nazi stuff in it, and
oh my God, yeah.
yeah, or
Adolf,
whatever.
the real Hitler would not have shown up for something like that.
No, probably
Dictators
not.
withdraw. Dictators
Yeah,
withdraw from
that
people.
was historical fan service, actually.
Right,
That was,
exactly.
but yeah.
Okay, why don't we move on to Tales of the Underworld now?
Yeah,
We won't spend a
definitely
lot of time.
a shorter discussion, I think, than Andor. Andor was just such
Yeah,
a long show as well. Tales of the Underworld were destined to be shorts, and they definitely did that.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I think the first ones were the adventurous ones. I'm pretty sure out of the
I think so
bunch.
too.
Um, so we'll probably do something similar with Andor and kind of give our overall opinions on it first, and then we'll kind of delve into it a little bit deeper. Um, I thought as a whole, both the Cad Bane and the Asajj Ventress ones, that they were pretty decent. I thought they gave some characters that we didn't get to see either aftermath or background on as much, kind of spending some time building them. Um, I think comparing it to the standard of the Clone Wars, I thought the Clone Wars deals with characters sometimes a little bit more full-fledged, a little bit better. Um,
Yeah,
you only have so much time in a short to really full-fledged, a story out in the same way that like Andor did. Um, so for what they were meant to be, I think they did a good job of that. To see where these characters end up, even with the arc with Ventress, we got to see her end up in a different spot than we had left her with, but we still don't know what she's really doing. She's still off doing whatever, right? So it's like there
right,
is still kind of a different like they expanded the story for both Cad Bane and Ventress, but there's still more room to kind of develop them in a deeper way in some ways
right.
as well. But but yeah, what do you think about them?
I'll just say I went into this anticipating because I really like Asajj Ventress a lot. I was anticipating I was going to like those ones quite a bit. I'm going to be honest. I did not care for the Asajj Ventress ones.
Yeah, me neither.
I
Not as
liked the
much.
Cad Bane ones quite a bit, but
Yep.
I did not care for the Asajj Ventress ones all that much. I would rather we got that bit where Obi-Wan and uh, Quinlan Voss bury her in the waters on
Mhm.
Dathomir. And
Yep.
that's basically the end of that book, that Dark Disciple book, and
Hmm.
would have been the end of that. That was supposed to be, as we've talked about before, that was supposed to be an 8 episode arc of the Clone Wars. I'd
Hmm.
still like to see that. I'd still like to see them go
Yeah.
do that as just
It
a
almost would have
mini
been
series on its
cool.
own. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't
Yeah.
think now, I think now we're not going to get that. But the rest of that, I found that kid irritating.
A little bit
I'm
too.
just going to say it. I
Yeah.
thought he was
Yeah,
irritating.
he was kind of a tool.
I didn't like him at all, and I don't know. Maybe they should have left her where she was.
Yeah. So yeah, I kind of agree, right? Um the issue I had with that arc too was it felt very here's a task and then a random story and then an end goal, right?
Yeah,
So it kind of pulled what early season one Rebels did, where it was like just some offshoot stuff where it's like, yeah, we need this to be done. Let's go do a random side quest to get that thing done, and then the end goal is good, right?
right,
I mean, and a lot of what Rebels did established, stuff that we had seen later in the later seasons, whatever. I thought that was executed well. Um, for this, it was like, oh, well, we need to find the path, right? So they talk about the path again, right? The same path we saw in Kenobi that was, headed by or I don't know if it was headed by, but at least involved with Quinlan Voss, right? So I thought that was a cool callback to something we had already seen in a project.
Yeah.
Um, and then to get there, it was like, oh well, Asajj runs into her old bounty hunting peers again. They do a task for the shield domes on Venator class Star Destroyer, stuff like that. And then that just all felt very like didn't really need to be there, I don't think. Because the only thing that was there for was so she could get the coordinates to the path, right? So it's kind of like I'm saying, like, we got an objective, a weird reason to get it, and then a good end goal. That weird reasoning part didn't feel as like
No.
necessary. It just kind of felt like it was some filler content to like fill the screen time.
Yeah.
But it would have been kind of cool if we had something more meaningful in that spot. And the same thing goes for the last episode where they had actually found the path because they were helping out that moisture farmer.
Right.
Um, and they get raided when they're trying to do that, and essentially the farmer ends up coming out wrong, and or that he had been oppressing raiders that were looking for moisture or
Yeah.
water
It
or
turned out it was
whatever.
the other way around. He was
Yeah, it turned out it
actually
was the other way around, right? Which is like,
harassing them.
okay,
Yeah.
it was a wonderful moral story in the sense that, oh, maybe you shouldn't trust everybody you run into the first time, whatever, and
But we've
stuff.
seen that
But it was the exact same cookie cutter kind of thing where it's like we have an objective to find the path, we do some random task to get that information, and then we end up with a solid end goal. And that solid end goal, I didn't even like the ending of this one as much either.
No, not really.
I thought it would have been really cool if Ventress had actually gotten onto the path and reunited with Quinlan Voss and did a bunch of stuff like that, right? It would have been a little, you know, expected, right? But I think that could have opened up a door for something kind of cool, right? Like what happens with her, who's a Jedi killer in the past, to get on a path, right? Where she could have been
Yeah.
saved from the Empire, stuff like that, right? I think that would have opened up quite a massive door, right? But they didn't do that. They chose to have her walk away with this kid away from the path, right? So neither of them went on it. And that leaves me in a very gray area of like, well, okay, where are they ending up now? So we took a very good story with Dark Disciple and put a bow on it. And then we reopened it and didn't really put a bow back on it that well, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah.
So not to say I didn't enjoy the watch, but I felt like it gave
Oh
me
no.
more, it definitely gave me more questions than answers. And the time it had to give me answers, it didn't really utilize all that well, I don't think.
No,
So it kind of, they also kind of reused in the first episode the introduction of an Inquisitor that we never got to know, and then killed it again.
killed him right away. Yeah.
Did the exact same thing that the Ahsoka one did in Tales of the Jedi, where
Yeah.
she had, and I thought that one was better. Despite that being an unnamed Inquisitor at the time, I thought that one was handled better. Because it gave Ahsoka more of a chance to kind of show herself as grappling with whether or not she's a Jedi and whatnot, which I thought was cool.
Well, explained
Um,
her white lightsabers also.
oh, it did too, which there's
It was a
actually a
small
reasoning.
detail, but
Yeah, yeah, small detail, but there was still a reasoning for it, right? But this one felt like it was that again without the reasoning and just a
yeah.
reuse of concept. So I was like, I don't know if I feel as strongly about that. Um, I don't know. Did you
I'm
have anything else to add to that?
I'm
I guess.
I'll just on the Asajj ones. I'll just add. I might feel different about it. I'm in the middle of a chronological massive rewatch of everything, or an MROE as I call it.
Yeah, sounds like a medical procedure, but it's not.
It sounds like a medical procedure, doesn't it? I might feel differently about him maybe after watching them a second time. I don't know, but I really like the Cad Bane ones because I like origin stories anyway if they're done well. And I thought that origin story was done well. I mean, the
Oh, I
fact
thought
that
it was great.
yeah,
I
they
mean, it
messed
showed that he
around.
wasn't initially like, I mean, he was kind of a kid on a bad path, right? But a lot of kids are in that way, right? What really took him to being where he was as a kid to the amazing bounty hunter that we saw him to be is
Right.
that he was influenced, right? There were people in
Yeah.
worse walks of life that were trying to get him to become them. And that
Right.
initially, I mean, he was initially just what was it? He was just stealing like produce or something, like getting money for stuff by
They
just
were just
robbing, like
homeless.
just petty thefts. They were
Yeah,
homeless
he and
kids.
his buddy there were just homeless. And you talked about how he was on a bad path. Well, his friend there was on the same path, and he
Hmm.
actually got caught. He actually got caught in that big operation that their mentor there, I don't know his name,
Yeah,
guy
I'm blanking on it as well.
involved in. He actually got caught, but then he ended up, becoming the police officer,
Yeah, the sheriff of the of
straightening his
that
life
city.
out and becoming the
Mhm.
marshal. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So despite getting onto a different walk of life,
yeah.
or despite them starting on the same like walk of life, they both parted and actually very
Diverse.
different outcomes, right? So it's
Yeah,
just the sense of, I mean, I like how they did that too, right? Because it showed that Cad Bane, could have turned his life around, but in the way that he was essentially brought up,
sure.
he never really had that opportunity or never really was able to take advantage of that opportunity.
Yeah,
But I also really like the way that altercation was like animated and stuff like that. Like when Cad Bane wasn't caught, but his friend was. I thought that was a very interesting story to tell because Cad Bane's lover at that point had fallen for the other guy,
yeah.
and it was
But
yeah.
she,
I
but
mean
she
that's
was carrying Cad Bane's kid too. We find out that's
exactly
actually
yeah.
Cad's kid. That yeah,
Exactly. So he essentially his friend became kind of like a stepdad in that way.
right.
But a more responsible father, right? Cad Bane wouldn't have been able to raise a child in an effective way. He was still a member of his gang, right? And eventually when he got out of prison, everybody who was in the underworld area was anticipating his arrival and was telling the sheriff, his friend, to start watching his back. You have an old nemesis coming by and he's going to want to see you, right? And that eventually did happen, third episode. So
Yeah,
I don't know, I thought that was executed a lot better. It gave me
yeah,
a way better understanding of where some of the bad in Cad Bane came from, why he's so proficient as a bounty hunter, and where his morality comes from. Because I mean, despite having a friend that didn't walk the same path, um, they both started in the same spot. It gives you a way better understanding of people's circumstances in life, how they shape them to be who they actually end up being.
yeah.
And I thought
His
that was a
friend,
very poetic
his
way to
friend
do it.
getting caught. His friend getting caught in that whole thing was kind of a good thing because it set him
Oh yeah,
down the right path. And
like a
Cad.
rehabilitation kind of
Cad got
thing.
away. I mean, in that moment, it looks bad for his friend and good for him because he got away. But it was
Hmm.
actually bad for Cad Bane
Yeah,
because he he still was going down that terrible path because he was still with that crew of criminals. So,
yeah, essentially. Yep. So
so
yeah, I thought that short. So kind of jumping back to the title of this whole thing, Tales of the Underworld, right? The one thing, jumping back to Asajj a little bit, that didn't feel very underworldy to me. I'm not gonna lie.
okay, that was another thing. You're right about that. That crossed my mind.
because because for the shorts being Tales of the Underworld, despite Asajj being a former bounty hunter, she was primarily for a longer period of time a Sith assassin. So,
Right.
and they spent more time talking about that and her being a former Jedi, helping this Jedi the path, stuff like that, more Force user stuff, where it took me a little away from the underground stuff. Because when I'm talking underground, I'm talking like like actual bounty hunter intrigue, like political stuff that we talked about before that we both like a lot, right? I like that stuff a ton.
Sure.
Um, and it just didn't hit me in that way. It felt a lot more Tales of the Jedi-esque, or at least something like that,
Yeah,
right? Whereas the Cad Bane one definitely did tickle my fancy on that
that was
topic
under.
because that was very underworldly. It was literally criminal life and how people are shaped from their childhood onward to becoming criminals,
Yeah.
right? That was very well done, I thought. So, of the two shorts that we got, or two sequences of shorts that we got, the Cad Bane one blows it out of the water for me. I like that a lot better.
Yeah, I think instead of the Asajj ones, I think I would rather maybe seen something about Boba Fett or
Yeah,
Bosk or Dengar
and there
or
are
even
arcs
or
there,
even or even some criminal organization that we hadn't in characters that we hadn't even met yet.
something like that,
You
right?
know?
That would have been very, very cool. And to be able to kind of, because I mean, we've seen theoretical arcs that could have happened in the Clone Wars that
Right.
didn't, and there was a whole Boba Fett one
Yeah,
with
there's supposed
Cad
to be a
Bane in
Boba
it,
Fett one too.
where he was rumored or whatever to get that little dent on his helmet, right? That's where that was supposed to come from. It was a duel out between him and Cad and
Yeah, it was.
wherever.
Yeah.
right? So we never got to see that either,
Didn't
right?
see
If they were
that.
to ever do another Tales of the Underworld, I would love if they did like a 4 episode short sequence where they integrated that into the canon in that way, right? Like,
Right.
show us that because I think a lot of people have been asking for that kind of a thing for quite some time, right? I don't think anybody was really asking as much for the Asajj stuff as much as I would have. I don't think so. I think a lot of people who had either heard of Dark Disciple or at
No, I
least read
like
the
that.
book
Yeah, I like that
were
character, and I think
were
a lot of people like her, but I don't think we were. I don't.
nobody was
I
really
don't think
asking
we
for
needed
it.
to see that. No.
No, and I think the
It's
way
fine.
that
We got
things
it.
ended. Oh yeah, I think so too. I think the way that Dark Disciple ended it too would have been
Sure.
probably better to leave it, but it is what it is. We got, and if they touch up again on it or something like that, we could potentially get a better ending that I think I would be more pleased with, maybe.
Yeah, maybe they're going
But
to do more with him. Well, I'm sorry, with her and that kid. Can't remember his name,
potentially,
but maybe they're
I
going to do
can't remember either. I
something.
think we had talked about it a little bit. You would have been like, "What if that was Caleb Dune or whatever? If that had been a
That's who I
kid."
thought it was at first. I thought it was Caleb. But then I realized, I said, no, well, they did. First of all, they didn't introduce him as Caleb. And secondly, I
Mhm,
said, I was thinking back to the books and the comics that have talked about his backstory. He was well hidden on the run at that point. So
mhm.
he wouldn't
Would
have
have
been,
been kind of a different story
he
to
would have
tell.
been out and about like that. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm. But
All right, we'll wrap that up then. And
yeah,
we'll talk just briefly on stuff that's upcoming. So I don't think we're getting anything else the rest of this year.
no, I don't think so either.
I
I
don't
think
think so
it's
either,
going to be pretty
unless
dry.
there's some more. I think there's some more visions. Of course, those aren't canon. I think there's some more
No, those are just
coming.
for fun.
I don't
Just
know.
watch them to watch them.
Yeah, they're kind of fun to watch, but they're not. Yeah, yeah. Um, we might be getting them this year. I'm not sure. But I think the next thing we got is the Mandalorian and Grogu. That's coming
Mhm.
at the end of May next year.
Yep.
We're gonna have to figure out a way to get together and see that. That's gonna be.
Yeah.
I don't know where you're gonna be though.
Me neither.
You're calling
Me
out,
neither.
so we'll have to see where you're at that point.
Yeah, exactly. And then
You're
we'll
graduating from college or what?
plan to do something around it for sure. But so
Yeah, yeah. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But that's coming. We've got season 2 of Ahsoka. I don't know if the filming. I don't know if they've wrapped up filming on that. Have you heard anything on that?
no, all I've seen is that filming is progressing quite nicely.
Okay,
I've
because I
seen
know they
that. I
started.
don't know if they're
So they're still
done.
filming. So that probably isn't coming till. I bet that's not coming probably till 2027. Maybe late 2026, but I'm almost going to guess 2027. When you
Mhm.
think about how long it takes the post production to get done.
Post
I
production
think
is like
I
half,
think they,
more than half the battle. Actually, it's
yeah,
crazy.
it is. It is. Yeah.
Especially if they use that dynamic environment stuff with like the virtual dome and stuff to be able to simulate environments and whatnot.
Oh yeah. What do they call that? The
I can't
can't remember
remember.
what they even know what they call it.
Yeah, they have a official name for it
Yeah,
though,
they do.
but
There's an official
I
name and then there's a
forget.
name. There's a shortened name and everybody calls it the volume. They call it
The
the volume.
volume. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, I can't
But
remember.
so yeah, if they use a lot of that, that could take a little while because
That can take a little.
that's a lot of work to make that
Yeah.
actually look good.
But I think one thing that was announced also is coming next year is that Maul Shadow Lord animated series. I'm
Yeah,
excited for that because
it's going to be really cool.
that's going to be about him getting really tightening his grip on his criminal organization there. Geez, now I'm
Mhm.
drawing a blank on um, the name on that.
Oh, what the criminal syndicate?
Yeah, the criminal syndicate there he heads up.
Isn't it like Red Dawn or something
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah, Crimson Dawn, Crimson Dawn,
Crimson Dawn, Red
Crimson
Dawn?
Dawn.
Oh, that's
Wow.
crazy. Yeah, I was the right color just about, but
Yeah, if you hadn't
oops.
have said Red Dawn, it wouldn't have come to me.
Yeah, I got the Dawn part
Yeah,
right.
yeah. I'm hoping we're going to see Kira in that, and I'm kind of hoping they get
Yeah.
the actress to do the voice.
Yep.
We'll see.
Yep. No,
We'll
ever
see.
since she was in Solo, I thought that a great character, right? And she's
Oh,
been
she's
in
awesome.
comics too in the past as well. And she was in a Vader comic, I thought, right? Or something.
She was in Vader. There was a Crimson Dawn comic book. She got involved with I think we talked about that on one of the shows. She got involved with Han Solo's carbonite block got stolen.
Mhm.
She was involved with that. She was going
Yeah.
to
Yeah, we
auction
have talked about
off.
that in the past.
I
Yeah.
don't know all the details of the story. I got to dive into
No,
it.
apparently it's a lot more involved than I could ever imagine. Because when
It
I
was,
saw that in the movies, I was like, oh, it was a smooth transition. Boba Fett went straight to Jabba's palace, and it was boom.
yeah,
No, it
that's
was
all.
possibly the furthest from it, actually. I think that was possibly the most scuffed up little transition ever. So
Han,
whatever. More
Han,
to
yeah,
learn.
Han took a little detour along the way.
Yeah, quite a few
He
in
was
between.
asleep and didn't realize it was happening, but he
No,
took a
no.
little
What
detour.
a glorious little coma or whatever he was in.
Yeah, yeah. The Knights of Ren were involved in that too. They were bringing
Really?
like sequel. Oh yeah, they were tying that to they were even tying that to the sequel trilogy. Yeah, the Knights of
That's
Ren.
actually crazy. Whatever.
I gotta read that. I gotta read that comic series because that sounds like that's really interesting. What
Yeah,
happened?
I'm sure it's a heck of a ride.
Yeah,
That's for
yeah.
sure. But
So we'll see what happens.
yeah, I mean I'm pretty excited for that. Just like how I mentioned with Tales of the Underworld, I like that kind of stuff a lot. So being able to kind of delve on more details in that area and stuff like that would be great. And if I had to guess, it's probably gonna end with him on Malachor in some way,
Oh, I
right?
think
Kind
so
of
too. Yeah.
tying in all of that stuff into where we saw him at Rebels. So, for your
Yeah.
big rewatch or whatever, you're gonna have to try to find a way for that to fit in right before you get to the Rebel stuff too, because it's
I've
gonna
been
be in there
I've
as
been
well.
doing this. I think this is my 2 or 3 weeks into this, and I'm only just halfway through season 5 of Clone Wars. That's how
Yeah,
much stuff
there's
there
a
is.
lot of stuff now.
That's how
Yeah.
much stuff there is now. Yeah.
Yep, because now even before you get to the first movie, you have to watch all the Acolyte now. So there's a bunch of stuff
And some of those
to,
shorts too, like those Cad Bane shorts,
yeah, those are before then
and some of those
as well.
Tales of the Jedi shorts happened before Phantom Menace.
Yep, exactly.
Yep.
So yeah, the one with uh Qui-Gon and Dooku are
Qui-Gon
before.
and Dooku. Yep. Yep.
Yep.
And Dooku and
Yaddle.
Dooku and
Or
Qui-Gon. Or
yep,
you said that
Dooku.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
There was
Yep.
one. There was also one with Dooku and Mace Windu.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yep. One of the
Yeah,
episodes was him
yeah.
and Windu.
Where
Yep.
there was a Jedi that got assassinated,
Hmm.
and it
Yeah, they
turns
were
out
tracking him down or tracking it
tracking
down.
him down. And then the other one that happens prior to Phantom Menace is the one where Ahsoka is born and her mother takes her out on the hunt.
Exactly.
On the
Yep. So
tiger.
definitely a lot more content now than
Oh
there used to
no,
be.
it's good.
So
It's,
yeah.
it feels like it feels like they're slowing down on the content here, which might not be a bad thing. The only
Mhm.
thing I
Give
don't
us some
like,
time to fit in some of this stuff that we haven't, because like I
well,
mean, there's a lot of series I haven't had the
yeah,
chance to rewatch or anything either. So
yeah. The only thing I don't like, I get the feeling that James Mangold movie isn't going to happen. If you remember way back a couple years ago when we did our very first show, I said
mhm.
that Dawn of the Jedi movie was the thing that I was really looking forward to.
Hoping for.
I guess he's off now. He's going to do this movie and that movie, and I can't remember what they all are now. And it just,
Mhm.
and I think they're scared to do it. I think they're after and it was it was just a few of the fans, I think, that reacted poorly to the acolyte, but it's like we said,
Yep.
it's like they said, the monster that yells the loudest, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
I think
and it
that,
was out of the time. It was out of the timeline just enough that it was a risk to take. And
yeah,
when that first risk doesn't play out so well, it's like,
ready to go
unless
back.
you're a very good gambler, usually that doesn't work out. If your first risk is bad, you usually don't step back into the ring. So,
I'm gonna, people in the comments on YouTube want to come after me, they can go right ahead. When I rewatched The Acolyte here a couple weeks ago, when I started my rewatch, I think I loved it even more, actually.
yeah,
There's
I think it's a
nothing
good show.
wrong with that show.
They
There's nothing
they did
wrong
a good
with
job with it. It was different. I mean, that's the thing. That's what
that
I liked about it though, is because it took a risk and stepped out of the current timeline that we're super used to. And I thought it did a good job of it.
Yeah, I think
Now,
it did
I
too.
mean, obviously the way it was received wasn't super positive because they canceled what was going to be a season 2 on
Yeah.
it. So that didn't work out.
But
But
it got views. It was the most viewed show.
yeah, it did a great job on Disney Plus for
Disney
bringing in
Plus.
money.
Yeah, so I
Hmm.
mean it makes no sense, but I guess it was expensive to make too. And
Hmm.
I knew back in 2013 when Disney bought it out, I said they're going to start, slashing budgets and things like that because
Mhm.
they're more interested in, making as much money as they possibly can off of it rather than giving us maybe stories that we want. So,
Yeah, which can be a little tough, but who knows? Maybe in the future, if they get more confident about stepping back out of that frame again, they'll revisit the thought of maybe not making an Acolyte season two necessarily, but stepping out of the time frame again, maybe further back
I
or
think they've got to
wherever.
because we're getting so much content. I mean, even between the prequel and the sequel trilogies, we're almost running out of room to put more stories in there.
Yeah, a lot of the characters have been so fully fledged now that it's almost hard.
Yeah,
It's really hard to come up with compelling stories to make them fit in better, right?
yeah.
Even as much as I'm looking forward to Maul Shadow Lord, I don't know how much that needs to be fledged out either. I think there's a lot
Oh, right.
to be said about it for sure, but it's one of those things where it's like that's a project I will look forward to, but it also wasn't on my radar at all. Like I wasn't thinking that they were going to do anything like that because I figured it was mostly told well enough. And for some stories, leaving stuff like that vague is good because it keeps the viewer, thinking, guessing, making, hypothesis, whatever on what they think is happening in there. Which for some stories and a lot of stories, that's good because it leaves the viewer up to question. It keeps debate alive. It keeps things like that moving. Right. So sometimes telling too many stories in an era is also a problem because you want to be able to leave some things open to interpretation. Kind of like why we were fine with Andor being a little bit more vague on its timeline and skipping us so much, right? Because there's a lot of stuff we didn't get fully answered, but leaving it open to the public didn't necessarily hurt anybody's opinion of the show. They
That's right.
actually did a great job. So in some areas, I don't think you need as much to be told. You can probably leave a lot of it to viewer interpretation and call it good.
That's
So,
right. That's right. Yeah.
but so yeah, hopefully they'll step out of their comfort zone eventually and make something that's out of the time frame again. And as long as people are positive,
I feel
or
like the
maybe they
only
don't listen. That's the other
last
thing.
thing I'll say on that subject is I think the only time frame where we haven't gotten a whole lot is that 10-year gap between Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones. But I feel like the only
Yeah.
maybe compelling story that could be told there, and it would have to be very compelling, would be how the Confederacy, how the separatist movement began, maybe.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
it would
I
depend
could see
on
that being really
writing.
cool. Right, because even talking about some of the stuff with Gorman, right back in Andor, being able to see how the political machine moved forward and making something like that happen, right? That was done very well, and none of us really had thought much about Gorman either, other than like the Tarkin thing that was in the comics and whatnot.
Yes.
But being able to establish another kind of political story behind how the CIS, CSI, no CIS
CIS, Confederacy of
CIS. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Not CSI. That's a cop show, I think.
That's a cop. That's a yeah, kind of a cop show. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
they've
But
they've done
how
like
the
they've done like 23,000 of those. But
yeah, sure, sure.
yeah,
But doing a show on how the CIS comes up and
yeah,
about, right, and establishing some of the politics behind that and where a lot of the dissent comes from the Republic, that would be really cool. And I mean, you can't tell me that Palpatine didn't have a huge hand in that either, right? He was
oh, of
definitely doing
course.
that, right? So it's like, yeah, it's a very unanswered question, right? And it could be done very much like Andor did Gorman, right? It could be very compelling,
That would make a
even a
great
couple of
animated. That
episodes.
would make a great animated series because you could get Corey Burton to come in to voice Dooku. You might even get some of the stuff. You could start out with. I think they did this in the book too, but you could do the whole thing with how Jango Fett got hired to be the template for the clones.
Yeah, the
Also,
the the glorified donor for everybody.
glorified donor, right, for the clones. So anyway,
Hmm.
uh, and then the last thing I'll mention, I'm going to look even a little bit further out, but I'm just going to plant a small seed here. The 50th anniversary of Star
Mm.
Wars. The original movie is coming in 2027.
Yep, coming back
You
to
and I,
theaters.
okay, we're going to have to do a special show, even if there's no content happening, if there's no
Yeah.
upcoming TV show or movie. You and I, and we got to plan it as close to the. So Star Wars was released on May 25th, 1977. We should try to do it as close to that date as possible if we can.
Oh yeah, I think that'd be
So
great
yeah. No matter where you're at, no matter where I'm at, we're gonna have to
for
fire,
sure.
we're gonna have to fire up Zoom here, and
Oh yeah,
we're
easily.
gonna have to do a special show.
Yeah.
I'll come up
It'd
with
probably be more of a, I mean, we could even shoot back and forth and just do like Star Wars trivia and stuff like that and make it fun. It would have to be something kind
Oh,
of,
absolutely, absolutely.
yeah.
I gotta come up with some trivia question. I didn't come up with a trivia question for you. We'll have to come up with a trivia question
Yeah,
here
for sure.
soon too. So, all right. I think this has been our longest show, so I think we
Yeah,
should
that was
wrap it
easily
up.
like 2 hours for us,
I
I
think we're
think, or
close to
something
2 hours this time. Yeah. So
easily.
that's okay. We
Well,
had a lot to talk about. We had a lot to
oh
talk
yeah,
about. All
easily.
right. Well, again, thank you, Jacob. Appreciate you joining me as always.
Yeah. And thank you for, purchasing Zoom Plus and making it so we can actually do it for 2 hours and not get cut off
We
every
do it
45
two
minutes.
or 3 or 4 hour show if we need.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
obviously, thank our viewers. Please
absolutely.
like and subscribe. And if you have friends that love Star Wars, want to see just a regular show,
Yep. That's all we do. Just talk, talk, talk.
in the
That's
modern
it.
way. Yeah. It's not fancy. It's very raw and unedited. Those are the words we like to use. But we'd love to get a few more subscribers and viewers on the channel. And please, send folks our way. So if
Absolutely.
you think they'd like us. So, all right. Well,
Well
thank you very
said.
much, Jacob. And we will wrap it up and we'll say so long to everyone and have a great summer and stay cool if you're in the hot weather like we are.
Oh, yeah.
All
So,
right.
all right,
Take
everybody.
care.
We'll see y'all later.
Take care, everyone. See ya.